So unions and school management have met with the Basic Education Minister, and that's really just to map a way forward for school management teams ahead of the reopening of schools. Principals and their teams were expected to return to work this week, as you know, but that has been postponed to later in the week. The SA Principals Association was a part of that meeting with the Basic Education Minister, and in fact we're joined now by the president of that association, David Korte. David, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM report. So obviously a big part of that meeting would have been the safety of school staff and of pupils as well as we get into the reopening of schools. But take us through some of the other major issues that were discussed.
So I think the big issue that was on the table is the minister's plan to open schools for the matrics and the grade 7s at the beginning of June. Is that plan still on track? And at the end of that meeting, those deadlines that have been set are still in place. Obviously, the other deadlines with regards to when the school management team returns and when the teachers returns, those deadlines are at the moment being pushed out. All the provinces were asked whether or not they were ready to receive their teachers back on the 18th, and the provinces indicated to the minister that they are ready to receive teachers back on the 18th. Obviously, between now and the 18th, things happen, but the big date is when do the pupils come back to school? And in the meeting, the minister just reaffirmed that the planning is still to get the teachers back, the pupils back on the 1st of June. So that's still on track.
And I suppose when it comes to reopening classes for the younger grades, you know, the foundation phase and so on, the issue there then becomes, you know, you can implement social distancing rules with the older pupils, you know, the matrics and so on. But when it comes to foundation phase, it's difficult to emphasize and to make sure that that kind of social distancing, for example, is adhered to. And I imagine parents wouldn't feel safe then sending their children back to school.
So, interestingly enough, the foundation phase was a topic which was discussed, and a lot of groups, especially the governing body foundations, were pushing for the foundation phase to actually go back sooner rather than later, because these children are sitting at home, and the concern is as their economy opens up, parents are going back to work and the children will be unsupervised. So the problem really is, as you've outlined, social distancing is difficult even for older children to remember. And so for younger children who just love hugging and want to sit next to each other and want to have their arm around each other, those kinds of things are going to be very difficult. It's quite funny if you look at some of the videos that are coming out of China and the ideas they've had around social distancing with the very small children. And there's one funny video where the children wear this big hat, and it's kind of with big cardboard arms that separates them from other children. But yeah, so obviously those are going to be issues which are going to be challenges for all schools. How to educate the children to maintain social distancing.
Yeah, I saw that video. It's actually quite a good idea, especially for the foundation phases. And as you say, children that age, they love to hug, they love to share their juice boxes, so it's a recipe for disaster, perhaps. Just as a final question, David, just in terms of saving the 2020 academic year, you know, are we looking at a plan now that perhaps we do defer the 2020 year well into 2021. There's one proposal on the table here that the academic year goes from October of this year to July of next year.
So in our meeting with the minister, that was not on the table. The minister is still hoping to salvage part of the academic year. And so the current thinking is the trimming of the curriculum. And so topics will be cut out of the curriculum. It'll be trimmed down. The June exams will disappear. And then if we're unable to complete the curriculum, some topics will be carried over to 2021. So currently there's no thinking of forgetting about 2020 and just starting in 2021. We're going to try and salvage as much of the academic year as we can, and we're going to do it through managing the curriculum. And when the children are back at school, obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure on the school principal and school management team and teachers to catch up as far as possible and to manage the time that's left in the year. But we're not going to forget about 2020. The plan's still on track. to salvage as much of this academic year as possible.
David, thank you so much for your time this morning on the AM report. David Korte is the president of the SA Principals Association. And yeah, schools need to open up. You know, not everyone has the luxury of homeschooling, especially as parents need to go back to work.